Alright, this is video number 4 of the Sweater Romper, the Lowland Kids Sweater Romper. And the very first thing I do is I find my side seams and push them towards the back and clip them in place to make sure that I don't mess that one up. I've done that on both sides, pushing the seams towards the back. Now I'm going to take my cuff, or my leg band. I'm going to locate the wrong side by checking for that elastic being visual as shiny, and put my right sides together, and I'm going to close up the ends so that way I can use this for a nice clean finish with a snap placket. If I was doing it in the round, I would do, with no snap placket, I would do them the same way I do my sleeves, which you will see in video number 3 for the Lowland Kids Sweater Romper. So with this one and this, with both sides closed, I'm going to give it a flip, turn it right side out, and locate the center. So lining up both sides and finding that middle. I'm going to mark that middle with a clip, and I'm going to do the other side. So finding the wrong side, pushing the right sides together, give it a couple stitches, tuck my tail with my needles down. The other side, right sides together. Tuck my tail. Right side out. Find the center. And clip the middle. So now I'm going to line up the middle of the band with the middle or side seam of the garment. I'm going to push those together and clip them in place. Now I'm going to take the end that I closed up, and I'm going to find kind of the waist portion of that hourglass, and I'm going to put the seam in the smallest portion of the hourglass on the snap placket, and I am going to line everything up and kind of like seat it as like the meat in this little taco. So I'm going to push this underneath my presser foot and give it a couple stitches so that way nothing shifts. Once I have those couple stitches in place, I'm going to raise my presser foot and tuck my tails just like always. Now I'm going to find my middle, and my leg band is significantly smaller than the garment piece. So I'm going to stretch the rib or the band just until it matches the garment. I'm not stretching the garment at all. And we're going to give it a good stitching without releasing that tension, and keeping even tension. For as long as you're stitching, you should have even tension. When you stop to readjust, it's okay to let go, but you need to make sure that you readjust and get your tension back to normal before you start stitching again. So now that I'm at the middle, I'm going to go over to the opposite side, and I'm going to find that hourglass portion on the other side, and I'm going to put the meat into the taco of that snap placket. And line up my edges. And with this one, I am going to give it a clip because I don't want this slipping out for any reason. So again, I'm going to stretch the band without stretching the garment. I'm going to use my hand as a clip, and I'm going to remove the clip, making sure that my seam underneath is still facing towards the back. And then readjust, make sure I have even tension without stretching the piece. And once I get to this end, I need to be very careful to not let the meat part slip out of the taco. Otherwise, you're going to end up with an uneven snap placket, and we don't want that. So I'm going to separate my needle threads from my looper threads, and I'm going to give it my 3 overhand knots. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. So that should keep it from unraveling while it's inside the garment. Now we're going to go over and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Line up the middle of the band with the middle of the garment, allowing the garment seam to face towards the back. And I will line up the seam of the band, or the meat, into the smallest portion of the hourglass and kind of put the meat in the taco. Now, I want the right side to be even with the left side, and this doesn't quite look even, so I'm going to readjust ever so slightly and see if I can't even it up. And that looks better to me. I'm going to line up one side to the other just to make sure that these really are even, and they do look even, so I know that that's right. And I'm going to line everything up. I don't want that band slipping out of that placket or the meat slipping out of the taco, so I'm going to hold this really tight. I'm going to lift up my presser foot and push it under there as far as I can and give it a couple stitches so I know it's not going to slip out of place before I let go. I'm going to make sure my needles are down, raise my presser foot, and tuck my tails around, locking those threads in place. I'm going to grab the middle and stretch the band just to match the garment, hold it in place, and stitch, keeping even tension. Once I get to the middle, I can let go and line up the other side. So again, kind of set it in that hourglass, the waist portion of the hourglass, and check. Again, it's not quite right, so I'm going to adjust, and that looks good to me. I'm going to double check, and those do look even. So again, I don't want to run the risk of the meat falling out of the taco, so we're going to line it up and we're going to clip it in place. Using the same even tension, stretching the band without stretching the garment, I can release that clip, make sure that the seam is facing towards the back, and stitch the band on, keeping that even tension. Now again, once I get to this area, I want to be very careful not to allow the meat to slip out of that taco. And we will separate the needles from the loopers and give it 3 overhand knots. And at this point, the piece is complete outside of snaps, so all we have to do is turn it. So for the snap plackets, just flip them right side out, and then you've got this beautifully finished snap placket. If I put my interfacing on before I sewed anything, if you haven't put the interfacing on, you can put it on at this point and just kind of, iron it on here and then flip it. So that way it's tucked in and it's hidden instead of having raw interfacing on the inside here. So you've got beautiful plackets there, and we'll flip the entire garment over and let you see. So we've got this is where our snaps will go. We'll have a nice snap placket. We've got beautiful banded legs that are nice and evenly stretched. We have beautiful cuffs that again are nice and evenly stretched. And then we have a beautiful neckline and a temporary size specific tag. And there we have it. That's the Lowland Kids Sweater Romper.